Morning, students. In the last class, we discussed with several aspects with regard to the reforms or the what are the achievements in the banking sector. That is the reforms in the sense without going to the branch bank, we can withdraw through several measures the money and its advantages and disadvantages we already see. Like the same, we are continuing with that also. So I'm going to share with that. So we see till the plastic cards like a credit card, debit card, and a smart card. Then another thing is the CIBIL Credit Information Bureau of India Limited. So CIBIL is the first credit information company founded in August 2000 to collect and maintain the records of an individual payments pertaining to loans and credit cards. So what are the functions? That is to collect and maintaining the records of an individual payments that pertains to the loans and credit cards. Then that is ലോൺസിനെ പറ്റിയും ക്രെഡിറ്റ് കാർഡിനെ പറ്റിയും ഓരോ ഇൻഡിവിജ്വലിന്റെയും that payments that pertain to the loans as well as the credit card. That is founded in August 2000 and is the first credit information agency. The CIBIL maintains the credit scores of the customers of the banks. A credit score is a three-digit numeric summary of the customer's credit history. That all you can aware, and after at the time I am sharing, you can read this. Then another one is the KYC, know your customer, that you are aware. Know your customer. The KYC means the thing each and every individual or the customer, the bank is collecting enough information. That is the case KYC. So know your customer is the process of identifying and verifying the identity of a bank's client by using reliable source document, the data or the information. The KYC enables the banks to know and understand their customers and their financial dealings to enable them to serve them better and manage its risk prudently. KYC is a continuing and recurring process where customers and financial institutions are required to adhere to the KYC norms prescribed by the regulators. So that is the know your customer. So it is the of identifying and verifying the identity of a bank's client. Bank's client in the sense means who? The customer. So that is the KYC. Next is what is that? What are the things in that KYC or what are advantages? It helps to get updated records of the client. It helps to serve the customer better by understanding their financial dealings and financial strength. It helps the banker to manage its risk prudently, and cheating by impersonalization can be avoided. So these are the advantages. Another one is the M-Check product. M-Check is recently introduced the innovative banking product as MCHQ. M-Check is a mobile-to-mobile payment option with the help of which shopping can be done without any money or debit or credit cards, but with a mobile wallet. So there should be a mobile wallet. In that, there should be enough money will be there so that credit or debit cards or money cannot be used at the time we are making any shopping. So that is the case M-Check. It means that one can use his cell phone is like a wallet. This concept is gaining momentum in the countries like Japan and other Asian countries. That is the M-Check product. Then another one is the internet banking. Internet banking refers to a banking transaction that routed through internet. It's a method of banking that allows a customer to perform the banking transaction through a bank's website hosted in the internet. So that is, I think you are aware about this internet banking, net banking, that is the one. That this is also called virtual banking or online banking or anywhere banking as it enables the customer to bring the bank to his computer the place and time of his choice. അല്ലാതെ നമ്മൾ ബാങ്കിൽ പോകേണ്ട കാര്യമില്ല നമ്മുടെ സമയത്തിന് ബാങ്കിന്റെ ഇതിൽ that is through online facility. We have a password, we have a security code, and whatever we did, only the customer only knows that one. So we are putting that one and making the transaction. So that is the case internet banking. So it's a system of banking that allows the customer to put in or take out the money, means depositing also and take out the money from a bank account by using the internet. Then Broadly, the levels of banking service offered through internet can be classified into two, that is transactional and non-transactional. ഒന്ന് ഇടപാട് ആയിട്ട് അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ഇടപാടില്ലാതെ. So what is a transactional thing? At this level, a customer is allowed to operate his account for transfer of funds, payment of insurance premium, booking and cancellation of train and air tickets, purchase and sale of securities, applying for loans and repayment of the loans, while non-transactional means for at this level, a customer is not permitted to do any fund-based transaction on their account. Non-transaction means but balance inquiry matra. That is the non-transactional. While transactional means what they need to do some transaction like purchasing a thing or purchase or buying the air ticket or a train ticket or whatever be like that. So a shopping can be done there. അതാണ് transactional thing. Non-transactional means only to inquire about the balance. That is the internet banking. The features are uses of the internet, quick management of finance, anytime, anywhere banking facilities should be there, expansion of the customer base, built-in security, speedy information, less costly and convenience also. So these are the advantages or the features with regard to internet banking. Factors responsible for the growth of internet banking are, what are the factors? That is the competition, cost efficiency, wider reach, relationship marketing, and round the clock access. Anytime, 24/7. അതായത് നമുക്കൊരു നെറ്റും അല്ലെങ്കിൽ നമ്മുടെ മൊബൈൽ ഫോണിൽ നിന്ന് തന്നെ അതിനകത്ത് കയറാൻ പറ്റും, isn't it? So that is the case. So these are the features with regard to internet banking. Then what are the advantages? So what are the advantages towards the customer? Like low transaction cost. Customers can carry out a number of transactions sitting on one seat with just a few clicks on the computer system, isn't it? Net online banking, only to put our password, only that thing, isn't it? So a number of transactions can be done. Customers get up-to-date information. Speed of the transaction is faster than the traditional banking channel. Easy for the customers to navigate the bank site due to comprehensive help uh, and simple software requirement. Then customers are relieved from the botheration of traveling to and from a bank branch. Customers get round-the-clock accessibility to the banking services, ensures privacy of the banking transaction. Customers can make online bill payment for shopping, travel, and donation transaction. While the advantages to the bank, this is the advantage to a customer, while there are advantages to a bank like that, internet banking has resulted in lesser pressure on employees in terms of entertaining the customer. That is, it reduces the administration cost itself. Then banks can easily make publicity about their new banking product. അതായത് എന്ത് പുതിയ പ്രോഡക്റ്റ് അവർ ഇൻട്രൊഡ്യൂസ് ചെയ്താലും ഹാവ് എ ന്യൂ ബാങ്കിങ് പ്രോഡക്റ്റിനെ കുറിച്ചുള്ള പബ്ലിസിറ്റി ടു ബി ഗിവൺ. ദാറ്റ് ഈസ് ത്രൂ different advertisement to be done. So that is the case. Second advantage to the bank provides the bank opportunity to have an access to a large market. It reduces the errors, time consumed and overhead cost, improves competitive position of the banks, eliminates costly paper processing. അതായത് നമ്മൾ എന്തില് ബാങ്ക് പാസ്ബുക്കിൽ അല്ലെങ്കിൽ പേപ്പർ വർക്ക് വളരെ കുറയുന്നു. കാര്യം എന്താണ്? only through online to online, bank to customer transaction. Banks achieve economics of scale since they are able to provide more services at lower cost. It is a powerful tool for improving the customer satisfaction as well as increasing the cross-selling opportunity, and provide the opportunity for the banks to tailor the products and services as per the customer requirement. While there is some advantages, disadvantages also, accessibility to internet by customer is poor, particularly in countries like India, where penetration of the PCs and other devices for access to internet is minimal. അതായത് ഇന്റർനെറ്റ് പ്രോബ്ലം, അതായത് ഇന്ത്യയെ പോലുള്ള ഒരു രാജ്യത്ത് എന്താണ് the internet connection system, it will be poor. That is one of the problem. And the entire system of online banking goes waste when the customers are not technically literate. സാങ്കേതികപരമായിട്ട് ഇപ്പം ഒരു ഒരു മിഡിൽ ഏജ്ഡ് പീപ്പിൾ അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ഏജ്ഡ് പീപ്പിൾ അവരൊന്നും ത്രൂ ഓൺലൈൻ സിസ്റ്റം കനോട്ട് ബി യൂസ് ബിക്കോസ് ദേ ആർ ഇലിറ്ററേറ്റ് ടു ഡു സോ. സോ ദാറ്റ് ഈസ് ദ കേസ്. ടെക്നിക്കലി ലിറ്ററേറ്റ് ആയിരിക്കണം. And that is one of the disadvantage. And internet banking creates a fear in the mind of customers regarding security, as customers fear that their accounts could be viewed and manipulated by others. അതൊരു തോന്നലാണ് അവർക്കുള്ളത്. Then many customers hesitate to deal with an internet bank as they are not sure of the quality of the products and services they will receive. And there are various banking products like loans, mortgages, and withdrawal of the cash, etc., that require to be delivered in the physical form. These products and services cannot be offered through internet banking. So we need to go through the bank branch. That is one thing. And there is lack of human interface in internet banking also. So these are the disadvantages towards the internet banking. So we see several reforms like the things that internet banking, then e-banking facility, then our ATM, like that. So what are the banking sector reforms in the banking sector itself? So these are the major changes have been made in respect of the working of the banks in India since 1991. These changes have come to known as banking sector reforms. They were necessary because the operational efficiency of the banking system had become unsatisfactory, characterized by low profitability, high and growing non-performing assets, and relatively low capital base. The reforms have had general and specific objectives. The introduction of the prudential norms and prudential regulation for ensuring the safety and soundness of the banks have been the important elements of such reform. So, two things you need to understand: prudential norms and prudential regulation. So, what are the prudential norms and prudential regulation? It relates to prudential norms relate to income recognition, assets classification, providing for bad debts, recapitalization, improving the quality of loan portfolio, and strengthening the supervisory process. So, we are going to see in detail what are these. Banking sector reforms and recommendations of the Narasimhan Committee. First point is interest rates on deposits and advances of all the cooperative banks, including urban cooperative banks, were deregulated. And similarly, the interest rates on commercial banks loan above 2 lakh and on domestic term deposits above 2 years were deregulated. Then another point is State Bank of India and other nationalized banks were enabled to access the capital market for debt and equity. കടത്തിനും ഷെയർസിനും എന്ത് ചെയ്യുന്നു for enabling to access the capital market. The SBIs and other nationalized banks are utilizing the capital market in order to acquire the debt as well as the equity. Then the prudential norms for income recognition, classification of the assets, and provisioning for bad debts for commercial banks, including RRBs and financial institutions, were introduced. They are required to adopt uniform and sound accounting practices in respect of such matters and the valuation of the investment also. Banks are required to make their balance sheet fully transparent and make full disclosure in keeping with International Account Standard Committee. Banks are given a greater freedom to open, shift, and swap the branches as also to open the extension counters also. So these are the things that you need to understand about the banking sector reforms under the Narasimhan Committee. What are the prudential norms? The RBI has issued new prudential norms relating to income recognition, provisioning of the bad debts, and classification of the asset. So, prudential norms are a system of the restriction and limits imposed on the banks so as to ensure the stability and to protect the interest of the depositors of the bank. These are the norms which can be followed while investing the funds. So, the rules with regard to depositing as well as protecting the interest of the depositors and should ensure a stability so that they can continue upon depositing the work or depositing the things. So that is the prudential norms. Then norms which are to be followed by investing the funds, they are formulated to protect the interest of the shareholders and the depositors. These norms are generally prescribed and implemented by the central bank of the country. Commercial banks have to follow these norms to protect the interest of the customers. Then another one, asset classification and income recognition. What is the asset classification? How the asset is classified? That is, asset is classified into performing asset and non-performing asset. So what are these? We will go into detail. The major source of income for a bank come from advances and investments. However, they carry some risk also. For the purpose of the income recognition, a bank's advances have been classified into performing assets and non-performing assets. So what is performing asset? What is non-performing asset? Performing assets are the advances that return income on a continuous basis. So we need to get a income. Continuously, we are getting a receiving an income. That is the performing asset. While non-performing, that is to be held by the bank, but nothing to be reviewed or received from that. So they do not carry more risk than the normal risk attached to the business, and incomes from the performing assets are recognized on accrual basis, while the non-performing assets are assets held by the bank from which no income is received by the bank within a certain period of time, and that remains out of order for a minimum of 90 days. So within a period of 90 days, if within that period, if the income is to be generated, that is a performing asset, and not to be generated, that is a non-performing asset. So that is under the prudential norms. So the asset classification and income recognition, the performing asset that is to be generating the revenue, while non-performing asset cannot be generating any revenue. That is the case. So I'm going to wind up the session. So please have a look at today's topics, and please carry on with the same, that is clear off your doubts as and when occur possible through the personal call or the WhatsApp messages or whatever be the mode you can. And also please confirm the video after uploading. Thank you for the day.